So, a quick update. We've been fighting server issues for many days on the Nitrado front. We're continuing to wait, and at this point, we have no idea how many days it's going to be, but there's not been a lot of play on FSN. So, it's not a lack of trying to figure out what to do, it's a lack of being able to do anything, so I've been focusing on other things in the meantime. So just adding a little bit more info so you have it. It's actually 4 days later than the little snippet I posted before. We can get in the server, but because there's now a script mod issue that Giants has introduced with their 1.4 patch, if we try, I'm hitting the Q key, if we try to attach anything, because manual attach is a script, it doesn't work. So I had popped in here because one of my FMs, Bryce down here in Anderson, which is the one who came in on field 20, he was upset because it's actually supposed to be February. So he was like, oh, I've lost this crop. I'm new on the server. I really need the money. So I had come in here and realized, hey, the server's still at November because obviously they've been down for a long time, so they're behind. And we haven't been able to get in, so there's been no syncing. But it's late in the day. He's unable to jump in. I'm like, late in the day in the server. It's not late in the day in real life. I'm like, he's got a tiny field. I can do him a favor. So I was able to jump in his harvester. But the all-important, I need to connect the PTO. Hitting the Z key. Nothing, because it's part of manual attach, because the scripts don't work. So I figured I'd check. Yeah, my wheat's still here. Now, I think they could go ahead and do it, but it's possible they're just not even posting customs contracts, or people aren't even trying because they don't want to create a problem of some sort. So everything's kind of in limbo, and I mean, it's been a long time. I want to say we might be going on a couple weeks since we've been able to get into these servers. Misty Hills, I miss you, but I can't do any work on you because I literally can't even hook up a planter to try to get some seeds in the ground, even though we can now get on the server. I'll give you an update when I give you an update. Alright, so I'm back, and you can see I have a PTO. So what was happening, best we can tell, is, well, not best we can tell, we know for certain what was happening. Somehow my keybinds for manual attach got removed. So I'm over here on Anderson Family Farms, and I'm going to get his soybeans up because he's just got a couple hours. I think I'll be able to do it in the time I have, because now obviously more time has gone by. But basically, in chatting on the FSN Discord, I had asked the question and, basically got the answer that others had been okay, because I was like, well, should we stay off the servers because it looks like manual attach just isn't working. So, so it looks like there's a script problem, and basically going back and forth, and I was in, he was able to work, I couldn't do it. He suggested getting, kind of deleting manual attach from the mods for FSN and then getting another copy just to make sure. That didn't work, and then that's when he kind of asked, well, can you check your keybinds to be sure? And first I was like, well, attach has something in there, but then I found there was a manual attach section further down, and somehow those were blank. And when I fixed those, voila, we were good. So, good news, and the good news is, at least, while there's still some challenges with servers being stable with Nitrado, I guess as long as we're able to get on, we can get on. So I'm doing a little bit of kind of, I guess, catch-up work, if we want to call it, for them, because as I said in my little short before this, alright, now we're getting the server. This is going to turn too far. No, actually it worked okay. getting server lag. Sorry, now I've lost my train of thought as the server lags further. Okay, yeah, now I remember. But as I said in my little short snippet before this that said, hey, we're still down, we're unable to do things, but the server's running behind. So we're actually supposed to be in February today. So we're 3-4 months behind. So basically, I'll take care of that when I get this done, because basically he really needs this crop, and it's not his fault we couldn't get into the servers at that time. And so since we have the opportunity, I think it's no harm, no foul to get him the material off his field, so that, you know, hey, it was some botched up stuff he was going to try to get on. He couldn't because we weren't able to get the servers to function. And so, hey, I came in and it was still here. So, and I have a little bit of time, so I'll get it done for him. I'll let him know afterwards at this point, because honestly, like I said, now I'm pretty tight on time. And the last thing I want to do is, because I spend 5 minutes chatting with him, suddenly I can't finish, you know, if nothing else. I mean, yes, it's only 5 minutes, but I don't even think I've been on 5 minutes, and we've already got 5,000 liters. And with soybeans, you know, that's $5,000 probably, at least. So, and when you're struggling for money, $5,000 is a lot. So, and, you know, I may have only been on for 2 or 3 minutes, so we may, you know, 5 minutes may turn out to be a full harvester. Either way, point being, I'm going to focus on what has to happen, which is this, and then I'll worry about what can happen later, which is letting him know that I did this later. Because I already kind of told him, hey, here's my intent, and then I had to pop out and tell him, well, bad news, I got in the harvester, I attached the header, and then I couldn't connect the PTO, so the thing wouldn't work anyway. So I'm stuck. The other good news, obviously, is, hey, you know, if I can do work on Misty Hills, I will certainly do that. I know there's nothing I can plant in February, but there may be stuff I can plant in March or April, depending on what I decide I want to do this year. Soybeans were something I was debating before, so I may go ahead and do that. Again, we're doing, you know, my intent was to do the north end of the field, which is one that won't require plowing between things, because we just put wheat on there, so it's going to need plowing to be as fruitful as possible after the next planting and harvest, but shouldn't need it now. And so I should be able to then turn around and get something in the field, and you know, either fertilized as I plant or do it later. So the other thing that's happened between now and then, and I think I may have actually mentioned it again in one of the shorts, because I think the first time I came on and said, hey, we're stuck and we can't get into FSN servers, precision farming has been released by Giants, and so it's available in Farming Simulator. It's just a question of how's it going to work in getting itself into FSN and getting on our servers. So I certainly would like it. I can't imagine any of the FMs are going to say no, given that we all came from a server where we put it on, and that was after debating for a while and kind of thinking, it's going to create more work. And then we were all kind of like, oh, shame on us, because when we finally did it, we're like, this actually makes it easier, and you know, we don't have to fertilize twice, you know, or 3 times on the FSN side, or FS19 side, I'm sorry. So it was way better to have it. And similarly, while it's just gonna eliminate one stage of fertilization, the new additions, because I've done some videos I'll link up to here. There's 3 of them at this point that are out there because I've done some additional work on crop sensors, but I'll give you a link here to the original one that kind of walks you through Precision Farming and Farming Simulator 22. So please check that out. Gotten a lot of good comments on it. People are loving it. People are saying, you know, I'm covering things that some of the mainstream, you know, more popular, longer term guys haven't covered. So as far as what I was hoping and what I claimed in my thumbnail, which is it's the only FS22 precision farming video you'll need, I think that's showing that folks are agreeing with me. So anyway, here's the link up there. Go ahead and check it out if you want to understand what's new in FS22 or just are new to precision farming. So, but you know, the other pieces that with the testing I've done and all the work I've done, which is pretty substantial, hence the thorough result that I was able to provide to the community. You know, the variable seeding, the herbicide control, the with the spot and spray or see and spray on the John Deere, you know, it means we're going to need a new sprayer. And I assume since that comes with the DLC of precision farming, there's some new equipment. I assume if we're getting DLC, we're getting DLC. They're not like going to strip that out. I could be wrong, but you know, obviously I'm not sure why they would. I mean, yes, it makes things easier, but it's not like automation that for manual tasks. It just sprays appropriately. Alright, so what I was saying hold on for was my GPS controls aren't working. All the keybinds were gone. I've now remapped them, I believe. I certainly have remapped enough of them, whether if they're in the right place or not, but even the toggle guidance steering menu is not coming up, so I can't get GPS working. So at this point I'm manually going to do the field. But man, I'm hoping that something weird isn't going on. But either way, you know, I spent 10 minutes screwing around with that, which was time I really don't have. So just to get this guy's field done, I need to stop. So I'm going to keep going along here. You know, hope you'll stick with me. Not very big of a field, so you know, not been here in a while, so certainly can sit and chat for a bit, and hopefully you'll stick with me and do the same and listen. But yeah, I just need to figure out, I mean, obviously his silo's right here. He's got a really small setup, so I'm pretty sure I know what I need to do here, but obviously we're getting close to getting full, so just keeping an eye on that, so that again I don't have a problem. Go get his truck. So there we go. Need to connect the hoses, since all that works now. So, you know, again, I clearly know how to set keybinds because I just did it on this, but for whatever reason, it ain't working on the GPS. So I can't turn the GPS on. I can't set the width. I literally can't do anything. I mean, I can't even get it to turn on, which is normally just an Alt-C, and Control-S is how we normally get into the menu. So, in any event, I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. We're going to do it as if we have no money. And, you know, normally, unless I'm missing something or forgetting something, the commands wouldn't be up there on the right side for GPS if you hadn't paid for GPS. But I did also, in the process of trying to get this to work, jump in my equipment, which hopefully by now I know how to operate, and couldn't get it to work either in a truck, a tractor, you know, so I don't know. It's just been a bit of fun. But got one combine load done. Obviously he's got a bit of a smaller combine because I think we were only at 15,000 liters there. But I'm going to do the second header pass. I wasn't really intending to do that, but that's kind of what it's turned into. It just seems to make sense, and then maybe I'll start trying to just go east-west here and get this thing done. Or maybe I'll just do this field in a spiral. I don't know. Given that I have to drive it anyway, this might be the better way to do it, because my guess is I'm not going to keep real straight because I can't do anything. I mean, I'm hitting the keys again, just hoping against hope that somehow it's going to work. In the interim, I've asked someone to post a picture of the keybinds just so I make sure I have the right setting. It should be guidance steering. Maybe I'm losing my mind today and not remembering what it should be set. Just like, you know, I mean, I've never had to set manual attach keybinds, so I can claim a little bit of that's beyond what I knew, that there was actually a manual attach section, because it's literally just two settings, which, again, if you think about it, it's manual attach. So what do? You attach the implement and you attach hoses. So, you know, where guidance steering has, you know, maybe 10 or 12 things you could do keybinds for. So I don't adjust track width with keys. So while those may be set in how FSN configures things, I didn't map those, but I mapped everything else. So I've got the toggle, I've got showing the lines, which is Alt-L. I've got, you know, turning them. So like if I was going east-west here and then suddenly I wanted to go north-south, there's a key for that, which is Alt-End. And then Alt-Home kind of resets on the line. So once again, not necessarily trying to prove to you, maybe just trying to prove to myself, like, I know what these mappings are. Like, I use them all the time in my, like, they're memorized because that's how I operate my equipment when I'm out in the field. So, you know, the only possibility is I put them in the wrong place, but either way, those keys are mapped, so something should happen. And at a minimum, where it says, you know, toggle guidance steering menu, which is how I assume I get into the box for the menu, like, that should work. And if I could get to the menu, I could kind of like do things via the menu, which is less convenient than the keybinds, although, you know, I'd still need Alt-X to work to kind of lock onto the track, but I don't know. So at this point, I've really only got like 30 minutes that I can devote to this. Again, I'd like to think this field is small enough that 30 minutes should be more than enough time to get it done, but I don't know. Because, yeah, at this point, if I don't make it, I'm unable to get on then for another hour. And as you can see, if you take a half hour and you add an hour, we're then into December, and at this point this crop would wither. So I have to get it done before that, so I'm somewhat kicking myself for screwing around with the GPS settings for as long as I did. And I'm kicking myself mentally now because I'm like, got this draw in the back. Go see if someone posted the keybinds, because it really would be nice to have it, but it's going to take at minimum a few more minutes to get it, you know, to play with it and maybe get it to work. And, you know, there's a possibility if I exit and come back in, somehow those, you know, maybe those keybinds can't be set on the fly, which makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm grasping at straws, let's just be honest. But if I do that, and, you know, that's where I'm kicking myself, like, just stop, dude, stop. I just need to focus on getting this soy off the field for Bryce. So let's do that. You know, send me vibes. I know it'll be way later, obviously, these videos you see after I'm done, but, you know, scream at me at the screen and say, dude, don't do it. Just keep harvesting soy, and then maybe for next time, like, those vibes will get to me or something. So, but goodness, anyway. So I'm probably a little crazy just because my farming simulator time the last 2 or 3 days has been doing nothing but precision farming and mainly crop sensor testing based on information that people were giving. So once again, you know, I gave you the link to the video earlier, you know, but I'll put the link here to the second one. Actually, I'll wait until I describe it, and then maybe it'll be exciting enough to you that you'll go. So then I'll put it in at that point, and you know, you can check it out. But anyway, after I did my precision farming walkthrough, there was a comment that someone had put out there, Troy, that basically said, I don't think there's anybody that I've seen anywhere in any of the videos on YouTube about precision farming that is using crop sensors correctly. If you look at the information Giants gave us, it says something completely different. And, you know, so I took some time, went and looked at the information Giants gave us, and agreed that potentially, with the way they were explaining it, which was basically it's going to impact your environmental score. It doesn't really impact your actual application of the nitrogen, which I think is what we were thinking. But I was seeing some weird things even as I did the precision farming video itself, like whether I had a crop sensor or not, I was still getting the information from the field, which is how it worked in FS19. Like, they didn't have the crop sensors, and so you didn't need them, and so it felt a little off, but it was like, hey, they've given us these crop sensors, and I assume they're doing what their name says. They're sensing the crops. So there was that, but it basically said something like, especially for things with green leaves, and it singled out grains and said basically grains, just the best time to do it is when you're doing your mineral fertilizer application in the spring. So it was basically the same thing, like do it when you plant. But then when you went to look at the environmental score description, it talked about the only way to get the 30 points for nitrogen in the environmental score on a field was if you used the sensors. So it was like, okay, I think I understand. And then it also, back on the sensor, had said something about, you know, you need to wait until there's enough green leaves for the sensor to notice a difference, is how it's worded. It doesn't say a difference in what. Is it a difference in growth? Is it a difference in now I can finally tell what the crop is? Which, again, didn't make a lot of sense, because, like, when I plant the crop, I can sit there with my equipment on the field, and my nitrogen reading is showing, you know, wheat in silty clay, and that's without a planter attached. You know, it's with a spreader attached, so it's not like, oh, I have wheat seeds selected, so that's why it's telling me. So it's clearly sensing the crop before it's even out of the dirt. So, you know, I don't know what they're talking about with it sensing something in green leaves. So between all those points, I'm like, all right, there's enough here that I should give it a test. And I spent a lot of time. I mean, it ended up being in excess of 10 hours of actual in-game time between just having to let things run so that fields would cycle. Because one of the things it talked about on the environmental scores, your nitrogen score isn't impacted at all until you harvest the field. And my original test, if you go watch that video, or my, you know, some of my original testing that I ended up doing at one point was in the second video was I had just done stripes, because I had assumed, okay, that's kind of how this works, so forth and so on. And then I realized, maybe I need to harvest the whole field. So I did like a whole other setup and did whole fields, and just the map I was using, Galveston Farms, while it has some tiny fields, even on the bigger fields, it's so hard because it's an English map. It's so hard to get equipment through walls or fences that it was like I was already pulling my hair out doing what I was trying to do on the fields I was trying it on. I'm like, I know I can't get into these smaller gates. I can barely get into the gates I'm trying to get into now. So that's what took a lot of time, and it was letting Courseplay do its thing, but, I was monitoring things as I went. I spent a lot of time putting it together. So if you want to understand how that all came about, here finally is the link to that second video, and you can go check that out and gain the expertise of my 10 hours of trial. And you don't have to spend your own 10 hours doing it. You only have to spend 45 minutes watching my video to get 10 hours worth of knowledge. I think that's a pretty good bargain. So go check it out, please. But with all that being said, like, I have a pretty good understanding of precision farming. I did from FS19 with the learning I did there. And I certainly do now, taking that learning from FS19 with the pieces that were similar or exactly the same, and then adding all the other additional capability in. So in short, there's some really cool stuff in precision farming. My assessment is crop sensors isn't one of them. I think crop sensors ultimately are like a placebo and actually don't do anything. Giants has made us think that they're there for a reason, but if you watch the 3 videos I've got in total, I think you'll come to the same conclusion that all my commenters have is, yeah, it looks like they don't do anything. So, so it was a big bait and switch in my mind, but either way, doesn't negate the fact that precision farming is a very cool add-on and does a lot of nice things. And certainly, I think will save us some money in supplies and so forth. So I want it here on FSN again, because I think it's very beneficial. It saves us money, it saves us time. What's not to like about it? And then we can, do the parts we want to do, don't do the parts we don't want to do. It gives you a lot more flexibility. They have a working economic analysis, I would say. So there were pieces of things you did on the field, such as spraying for weeds, where in the FS19 implementation of precision farming, I don't even remember if they had a slot for it, but if they did, it didn't fill with data. I think they didn't actually have it in the economic analysis. It's like they forgot about it. But now, obviously, because they've taken the time to do spot or see and spray technology, I think I keep calling it spot because I think the word is, or maybe it's spot spraying or something. I don't know. Either way, I'm almost 100% sure it's see and spray technology is what's on the John Deere sprayer. The slurry spreaders, which also now have variable rate application, you can do that with any slurry spreader, which is cool, but on the liquid sprayers you have to use the one that comes with the DLC. You're not able to put that on other sprayers, so that kind of locks you into that. So we would be replacing our current sprayer with that, because there's definitely some value, and from the environmental score standpoint, it also increases your environmental score, because for the weed control, similarly, it says, the only way you can get the top score is to use that. Now, as I explain that to you, I sit here and internally chuckle a little bit, because I didn't test this. And I'm likely not going to, because it's going to be what it's going to be. But the challenge was in my crop sensor testing, like it was saying, well, you're never going to get near the top nitrogen score if you're not using the crop sensor. And I've demonstrated that that was provably false. So maybe they make the same claim with the See and Spray, and then basically if you just spray for weeds you get the full score anyway. So I'll probably run a quick test at some point before I use things in FSN, because otherwise, it's the thing of like, hey, if I've got a good enough sprayer already, but you still may get the benefit of using less herbicide on the same field if you use the spot and spray technology, or See and Spray. I'm just going to keep saying spot and spray, even though I corrected myself like 4 times in this video with you, but See and Spray, because basically if it doesn't see a weed, it doesn't spray. Now, you can visually see that. I demonstrate that in the first performance farming video, because frankly I thought it was pretty cool. Part of the reason I thought it was pretty cool is, while I think I've said at various points, whether it was on the FSN video series that I do or others, company I work for, like we work in that space. Like, we're not part of this John Deere conglomerate that Giants says is putting some of this stuff together, but we have technology that does literally the same thing. It's just ours is actually, I would say, even has more capability, because it's involved with fertilization, not simply weed control. So on the fertilizer, and it's equipment that works together. When you plant your seeds, the computer system in your tractor will remember exactly where every seed on your field is, basically on a GPS type map. And so it knows precisely where every seed is. And so then when you go back around with your sprayer to fertilize, it only applies fertilizer where there's a seed. So it doesn't just spray the whole field. There is some, variable fertilization, obviously, which was already in FS19. But they don't explain it or show it to be working the same way in FS22. It's really more focused there on weed control. They're not saying that you need to use See and Spray for fertilization, because the See and Spray on the John Deere side is seeing the weeds amongst the crop, where for fertilization you know where the location of the seed is, because again, sometimes you're fertilizing where there's no plant that has come up yet, so there's nothing to see. So See and Spray wouldn't work. And then if you're seeing and spraying for fertilizer, like, first off, the technology would have to differentiate, which I guess it does, between weeds and crop anyway. But when it's looking for crop, obviously your crop is everywhere. So See and Spray is kind of pointless at that point, because it's seeing crop covering the field, so it would be spraying constantly. So that just becomes a variable rate application. But I would argue that our technology is even better than that, because it's not reliant on seeing anything and therefore probably still overspraying. It's relying on specific seed positioning and spraying where it knows there's a seed. So that's part of the reason, like, the whole precision farming thing is just, like, awesome to me, because I love that space and the real savings and the real benefits it gives real farmers. It's expensive stuff sometimes to do these things. The truck almost looks like a Christmas tree, like with blinking lights. At least that's what I see. I'm not sure if it's coming across on the video. They're getting a little more solid now, but It's kind of cool. Keeping myself entertained, right? Alright, we still got about 15 minutes. So 15 minutes of our half hour, which is about half our time. We're getting down to the end. Obviously, I've decided subconsciously, because I honestly didn't think about it, I just kept driving around the field. So I've decided I'm harvesting this field in a spiral. So, no GPS, this is what you forced me to do. And I'm okay with it. Although certainly it'd be easier with GPS because I wouldn't have to worry about, I'd probably be more efficient and honestly be able to finish this field earlier because I'm probably off a meter or two each time. I mean, I know on that I was definitely way off because with turns I don't want to miss any off the edge, so I give myself, I'm conservative in that case. So here I'm probably cutting a lot closer to the full width of the header, but we'll see how it all goes. So yeah, this became a long discussion about precision farming, but that's why, because literally I've been spending a ton of time in precision farming, and kind of what I was getting at was I'm just kind of a little burned out on testing, and it was like, alright, I want to do something else, and then having something not working, where I came off a bunch of testing to show how something worked, and then ultimately to find that, okay, the way the creator of the thing said it worked, unless I'm a complete bumbling idiot, it don't work that way. So, and I was desperately trying to show this so that people would understand how to use it, and then ultimately found out, well, I spent, what ended up being 12, 13 hours of my life between the multiple times I tried it, because then the third video basically is just a really short video trying yet something else, because I guess there was a bug in Giants implementation where it doesn't make clear that you have to turn on the crop sensor because it's not in the help menu. So it never, it's like other things where you're like, I have it. I mean, yes, you have to turn on GPS, but like when the GPS stuff is working, like it tells you turn on GPS. You've got an icon here that shows you to turn on GPS. Like there's nothing obvious like that for the crop sensor, and so there were a couple people who had, I guess, stumbled upon this in their work, and said it doesn't look like you even turned on the crop sensor. So then I was like, well, shoot, I did all this crop sensor testing thinking I had it on. I was testing with it on and with it off, so obviously I had it off all the time, but I didn't know that. And so I'm like, all right, I need to, for my own curiosity, I need to now see, now will it work differently? And it didn't. So I don't know what other new information might come up in comments. So I'm not going to say, hey, I've discovered everything there is on crop sensors and basically they don't work. Maybe someone will come up with some additional information that I don't know that I can try that is like, whoa, look at this. And of course I'll let people know if that's the case or if it's not the case. The whole point of scientific experimentation is we all learn by observation, and we'll see how, what we think is going to happen, does it happen? And when the measure we're taking, what's the measure we get, and what was the measure we were hoping for? So, but at this point, I'm certain the crop sensors were on, I'm certain whatever, and for the most part they just don't do what Giants says they do and function the way they function. They appear honestly useless, other than from just like being, hey, I want to role play and I want to use the crop sensor because that's what I would need to do to make this thing happen. And so fine, you then go spend the money, but frankly, whether you turn it on or off, unfold it or not, like there's no difference in how the game actually rewards you for it. But if it makes you happy that you spent whatever it is, $40,000 on the crop sensor, and now you're using it and you're excited because it's on the front of your tractor and you feel like a big fancy farmer because of that, that's good enough. I mean, Farming Simulator just, that's what it does with almost everything else. Makes me feel like I'm running a big case harvester and driving a big Mack truck as I'm doing this work here for Bryce, and that's why I love it. So yeah, not saying that there's anything wrong with that being the only payoff. The only thing that was frustrating to me is they indicated there was some other payoff, and I really wanted to understand it and learn it, and then I, obviously wanted to share that with my viewers, and it turned out to be a giant waste of time because, I mean, if I'm being blunt, I feel like they lied to me. So, and I went through all this effort, and it was all BS. So, so yeah, enough about that, but that's been what's been consuming my Farming Simulator life. And, and the other frustration with it is I'm kind of at that point again because I've spent so much time in Farming Simulator where now I was somewhat dreading even like, oh, do I even want to look and see if I can get in the FSN server? And then I did, and then it wasn't doing things, and so it was just more disappointment. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'd like to do a different sim for a while, go to truck sims or train sims for a bit, and then the comments to do my duty, to serve my community, my YouTube watchers, and give them the unvarnished truth. I had to spend some more time this morning on yet another crop sensor test, which turned into a third short video. So, and again, it was a short video, but it still ended up being an hour or two of work to go through the work I needed to do to compile the information. So, and at this point, obviously, I'll be spending less than an hour in here because that's the only time I had. Yeah, we're getting real close. I've got like 10 minutes now, so I would think we're gonna get there, but I know I said 15 minutes, what seems like way longer than 5 minutes ago, but it honestly doesn't seem like I've gotten rid of much off the field in those 5 minutes, and I probably haven't. It's only been 5 minutes, but I do have to keep in mind again, I'm making this segment I'm working smaller and smaller as I go, so while it's still wide, I'm not really having to go as far, so in theory that takes less time. So I'm going to try to be as efficient and get as much of the crop as I can, though, so if I do have to leave a little bit, I can do that, because I mean, worst case, if I gotta leave his truck full because I don't have time to move the truck, like I can move the truck later, or he can move the truck later, because the crop's not gonna go anywhere or wither in his truck. It's just gonna die on the field if I don't get it off the little bean stalks. Are they bean stalks for soybeans, or are they just soybean plants? I don't know. Yet another mystery that I don't know the answer to. Just like crop sensors, but now I know the answer to that one. And I can know the answer to the soy thing by simply looking it up. I'm just not going to do it now, because I need to get these soybeans off the field for them. Alright, so this may actually get me to the point where, I don't know, it looks a little too wide for this pass and then the next pass to cut it off. I'm probably going to have a little line in the middle, which is kind of one of those unfortunate results, because if you have that, like, you can't go any faster. It's still another pass at 6 miles an hour, even though maybe you're harvesting 3 feet of soybeans. But I'm going to do everything I can to get this done, just because I'd like to help poor Bryce out. So I want the farm managers to succeed on the server, frankly. I mean, it's a lot more fun having folks around. You know, even if we don't get the opportunity to play together that often, you know, we're still chatting with each other periodically. You know, and you can see progress or changes on the map when the FMs are on doing things when you're not on. Just like they'll be able to look up at, you know, field 9 and say, oh, you know, he went ahead and did these things, and look at that. You know, I know folks had a little bit of fun with just how I set up my yard and so forth, and that was part of why I wanted to do it that way, because I knew it'd be fun for me, and I figured it'd be fun for others too. But and it kind of turned out to be that way. So if I can keep an FM from getting frustrated and say, I've lost all this money, it's going to be too much work, I'm just going to quit and I'm just going to give up. If I can spend a little bit of my time getting the crop off their field for them so that they don't feel that they lost it, that's worth my time, being able to give them that service and so forth. So I'm not looking for him to pay me for the hour I used here or whatever. I mean, I'm using his equipment. I didn't have anything else to do on my field anyway, and you know, the only thing I could do is shove things forward to the real time, and then you know, there's nothing that can be planted in February anyway. So it's time that I have to give, and I'm happy to give it. So good news is we're going to get this done for him. So that is awesome, because yeah, we're not going to fill the harvester again off this field. So, and I'm guessing that's why he ultimately decided to go with soybeans, because they are a pretty hefty payout per 1,000 liters. I think they're frankly the highest payout per 1,000 liters of anything in the game. I mean, maybe cotton, I guess, since cotton's there now. I guess it was there before, but I don't know. Doesn't matter, but maybe cotton's more, but you know, the others are 200-300 in game, and even within the game here, soybeans are usually floating around $1,000 a liter. So when you got a small field, you know, I don't know that they are definitely less productive than wheat or whatever. So, I mean, if he planted wheat, he would get more liters of wheat off this field than he's getting soybeans, for example. At least typically. But, you know, let me just see. I think that little triangle is where the plants are. We're kind of out of that circle of visibility until we get closer. Even when I get closer, it's just dark, and in the shadows it's hard to tell. But yes, these are the last remaining soybeans on this field. Get another 20-25 liters, and again at the level we're at, that's, you know, like $25. So every little bit helps when you're a struggling new farmer. So again, that's why I'm more than happy to help him out, because I know this is going to be a big thing for him to be able to not have lost this crop. I mean, you got to remember too, I mean, there was money put into these fields to fertilize them, and you know, the other things. I mean, it doesn't look like he rolled them, it doesn't look like he put lime on them, so he could have had some better yield here. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that's really his silo, and that I'm not like dumping it in some general silo and selling it, because I won't be able to see that, I don't think, because I'm using his equipment. And plan connected, right? Yep. Right. I just forget sometimes how these Mack trucks struggle to do things. Yeah, because the challenge here is, you know, there's another game silo, like there's a sell point there, which is the grain elevator that's right there. So it's just sometimes a little challenging, like, okay, is this really where I want to deliver it? But yes, this is his thing amongst his equipment, where the other one that doesn't have his equipment around it is the grain elevator. So we'll pop over here, get it in the pit. You know what, I may not even get it in the pit. I may just leave this here for him, because at this point this is his entire harvest. You know, what's the point of putting it in the silo? And then he turns around and, why am I running across the field? I've got the magic of teleportation from Farming Simulator. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to go ahead and likely sell it somewhere. So put it in the silo so he can dump it back into his truck. I'll leave it there in his truck, and then, you know, he'll know. But the good news is, I mean, at 50,000, that may be what he's getting in cash. And so for someone like me that still has, you know, 1.4 million in my account, like 50,000, it's nice. I mean, it's still 50,000. I think people who have a lot of money make a good amount of income. It's way too easy to basically be like, oh, it's only this, or it's only $20. Still $20, whether or not, you know, $20 has a huge impact to you or not. I think that's where people do a frankly terrible job with their personal finances, is they you know, they take this thing of like money somehow changes value when you make more of it, but it really doesn't. So whoops, I need to get the thing unfolded is what I need there. Now I can drop it. So now it can be connected to. So I'm going to try to do that. I really need to get off the server, but I hate leaving a job half done. So I'm going to push my luck a bit, and maybe people will yell at me later, but oh well, you guys won't hear it. It'll just be me. So look at that. I can attach things. I'm just so happy I could get this done for him, though. So all cool, all cool. I have no idea if he has a washer. I am going to have to pass on that, but I'm going to get over here. I'm going to leave this connected so that he can go clean things up if he needs to. I frankly don't have time, so sorry, Bryce, if you're watching this. I wasn't being sloppy. I just ran out of time. So, good job. I got it done. It's an hour to spare in the game, and I'll see you guys all next time.